Hi everyone. In today's video, we're going to be learning to multiply whole numbers by 10 and 100. Now, initially, this sounds like actually quite a complicated thing to do, but in reality, 10 and 100 are some of the easiest numbers to multiply by. Now, to start off with, we're just going to write out the 10 times table and look for a relationship within the 10 times table. So 1 times 10 is 10, 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, that'll probably do for now. So we should be starting to notice a bit of a pattern here. We have 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, 0. 6 times 10 is 6 zeros, 7 times 10 is 7 0, and so on. So on first inspection, this kind of looks like if you want to multiply something by 10, you just add a 0. However, technically that's not the case. And what's actually going on here is something a little bit different that we're going to explore just now. So let's take one of these to start with. Let's begin with, I don't know, 4 times 10. We know that 4 times 10 is 40, but what's actually happening here? Well, we started off with a 4, but when we multiplied it by 10, that 4 moved up to the tens column, and a 0 filled the place in the units. Okay, so we can see why it looks like we're just adding a 0 in the end, but actually what seems to be happening is we're moving columns. Let's see if this rule holds true for some others. What about 7 times 10? Well, it seems like the same thing's happening. We started off with 7 in the units, but when we multiplied it by 10, it moved up to the tens column, and a 0 took the place. So whenever it comes to multiplying by 10, we move things up by one column. We move all the numbers up by one column. Well, what about for bigger numbers? Let's take 43. If we're wanting to multiply 43 by 10, the 4 is going to move up to the hundreds column, the 3 is going to move up to the tens column, and a 0 will take its place. So 43 times 10 is 430. But now we know it's not actually as simple as just sticking a 0 on the end. What's actually happening is that everything is moving up by one place. This holds true for even larger numbers. Let's go 568 times 10. Well, 568, there it is. And instead of moving them up one at a time this time, let's just do it all at once. So the hundreds moves up, the tens move up, the units move up, and the empty space is filled with a 0. So what do we end up with? 5,680. So we can see here that multiplying by 10, basically we just move everything up by one place. What about multiplying by 100 then? Well, we could do the same thing. We could write out our 100 times table, but very quickly you notice the same sort of pattern, except this time it seems to be 2 zeros that get added onto the end. Well, what does that tell us? It's not really adding 2 zeros, it's moving the number up by 2 places. So let's take 8 as an example. What would 8 times 100 be? Well, we put an 8 in the units column, and we know that if we're multiplying it by 10, it moves up one place. So if we're multiplying it by 100, it moves up 2 places. So the answer must be 800. What about 76 then? Well, just like before, we would move it up one place if we were timesing it by 10, and 2 places if we were timesing it by 100. So the answer then must be 7,600. So that's multiplying by tens and hundreds. 10 has 1 0, so we move everything up by one place. 100 has 2 zeros, so we're going to move everything up by 2 places. So lastly, let's look at dividing whole numbers by tens and hundreds. Now, this is actually just as easy. We know that dividing is just the opposite of multiplication. So if multiplying a number makes it become bigger, dividing a number will make it become smaller. So if I take, let's go for 30, multiplying it we know would make it 300. This would move up here, and that would move up there. Dividing it then, well, what's going to happen? Everything's going to move the other way. The 0 falls off the end, and the 3 moves down to the units column. So, 30 divided by 10 is just 3. What about 500 divided by 10? Well, here's our 500. And the same process, everything's going to move down one place. And what do we have? 50. We have a 5 in the tens column, nothing in the units column. So the answer is 50. And just like before, if we move things one place when it comes to tens, we're going to move it 2 places when it comes to hundreds. So what about a really big number, 3,600 divided by 100? Well, let's follow the process. We're dividing by 100, so we're going to move it 2 decimal places, and because we're dividing, it's all going to become a smaller number. So we drag it 1 place, 2 places. And there we have it. The answer is 3 tens, 6 units, or 36. So that's it. It really is that simple. If you're multiplying, things are going to become bigger. All the columns are going to move up the way. And if it's 10, it's going to move up by 1 place. If it's 100, it's going to move up by 2 places. And if you're dividing, the numbers are going to become smaller. So everything's going to move down by either 1 column or 2 columns. I hope that was helpful, and good luck in practicing this.